business.
Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
Nerd powers activate. What's up, everyone? This is Casual Friday, and you're not going to believe this, but I'm Jim, that's Brad, that's Ryan, and we are here to talk about the newest news in the tabletop game industry. We're all feeling good. We're ready to go. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is just there was a lot of news that came out of Gen Con, and this is one of the things that dribbled out of it, was that D&D Beyond was launching a new character quick start, quick builder. And we have the article from EN World about it. And we're mostly going to have to talk about the article from EN World because none of us have been able to get this thing to load. This is the URL. It's the URL. D&D Beyond characters / builder / quick dash build. But we've tried it in multiple browsers. We've tried it on Windows and Mac, and it don't load. So this is what it's supposed to do. Yeah, it doesn't load very quickly. That's correct. Yeah. Okay, so this is what it's going to sort of look like. You see, we've got a graphic of a druid, how it feels to play, what are their abilities, giving you some, if I can embiggen this a little bit, giving you some tooltip kind of pop-out links here. Mentioned in the roadmap, our design process, while we're talking to characters about pain points. They did a little bit of UX on it, apparently. You shouldn't have to be an expert in the rules. It should feel great to use across all device sizes, from phones to 4K monitors. Lead with iconic D&D art, not walls of text. That's just good design sense, no matter what it is. Provide easy default selections and let players decide. Put the DM back in control, including which rules it uses or omits. If they can get that right, that will solve one of Didabuz's major problems since launch.
Yeah, that would be huge.
Help players see and avoid common builder mistakes, fitting about ability score bonuses or picking duplicate skill proficiencies. I don't know. It's probably not safe to play this video, so we can't actually get a look at it. But so let me tell you guys my problem with building a D&D character, and the reason why it sucks is because the worst part of Dungeons and Dragons is building a character, and so that's unfortunate that it's the thing you have to do first. Mm-hmm. And the solution for this is often pre-made characters, which is fine. You don't quite fall in love with the pre-made character the same way you do with your OC. I think that's reasonable. But the problem is right away you're confronted with class and species and now background. And class is a dozen choices. Species is on the surface at least 8 or 10 choices. And if you want to go deeper, you can go, I don't know how many there are in the PHB, 8, 10, 12, somewhere around there. So right off the bat, you're presented with a matrix of 120, 144 choices. And I feel like that is just the wrong way to approach character creation. The character creation method I like is, what kind of dude do you want to play? And then we go from there. Like, my favorite thing to do helping new players back remember when the Marvel movies were huge in the Endgame era? My favorite thing was to ask a new person, who's your favorite Marvel character? Who would you most like to be? Because regardless of their answer, I could find them a class-species combination that would probably do that. I want to be a punchy guy. I want to be a flying guy. I want to shoot bolts of energy from my fingertips. Whatever it is, mm-hmm. There's a comparison. So we can't look at the D&D Beyond character builder as it is now, but what do you think of my complaints, and what would you like to see in the D&D Beyond character builder?
I think it would be awesome if there was a quiz. Like you could do exactly what Jim just suggested, because you can't use like a Marvel property, right? But you could give somebody a quiz of like, what, do you want to be sneaky or strong? Do you want to be strong or use magic, right? So you could have a matrix of questions that you go through and answer like 10, 12 questions, and it spits out a character for you based on how you answer those questions. I think that would be a brilliant way to have new character creation for brand new players.
Agreed. I think I've seen, like, what Harry Potter house are you or whatever. Like there are fan made flowcharts out there for, like, somebody steps up in your face, it's a goblin. What do you do? Hit him with the sword, hit him with magic missile. Easily doable. And for a first time player, character creation is not the first thing you should be doing to D&D. I am a huge advocate for pre-gens. Yes, you lose a little special sauce and, like, not making your character's backstory or whatever, but, like, if you don't know what the game is like, you shouldn't be walking in with a novel anyway. So we can skip all that art forward. Definitely a way to go. It's like, hey man, you want to be like a vibing, potentially stoned hippie dude who does green magic stuff? Yeah, we got you. Straight up. It says what it is on the package. Breaking news from the future, which is also Middle Earth. It's working for some people. Nacho is indeed up in there. I was not today. I was not this morning or this afternoon right before showtime. But it's a work in progress. It seems like there's a new crop of people. They're saying the right things. I'm not going to wait with bated breath to see if they follow through or step on a rake, as they usually do, but it sounds good. I hope it works.
Hey, Nacho, can you put in chat if you're on Windows or PC, and if that's which browser it is? Like, I'm curious if you're on PC, if you're using Edge. Or I don't know why. We don't know why it's not working for us. We tried a variety of things that felt like a decent test schedule there to get it working, and we did not.
I will say, and you touched on this, Jim, my biggest pain point with D&D Beyond is so-called legacy content bleeding through. However much you toggle it off, you go into character creation, you're looking at your spells. We had a half of a party wipe out last 2 weeks ago. People have made some new characters. We're at, like, higher levels now, and the meticulousness required to make sure you have the right fine steed loaded up or whatever is frustrating. It's annoying. Why are there two versions of this game smashed into one tool that's ostensibly created to make it easier?
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people have been playing that way for the last year or so, right? They've been playing a mismatch of 2014, 2024. Sorry. Oh, wait. I can actually say 5.0 and 5.5. It's official now. It's 5.5. Yeah, I think people have been playing a mismatch of the two editions, picking and choosing. Which is like a default. You do that usually anyway, because, like, you have old rules stuck in your head. Like, I remember when 3.5 came out, it took us forever to, like, get some of the 3.0 stuff, out of our heads in order to play 3.5. But yeah.
I would posit, though, that a lot of people are doing that unknowingly. It's one thing if you're like, hey, we're going to use flanking. You know what? Everything gives you advantage. I'm taking flanking out of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm using flat-footed. Like, we're like, in this particular case, we're applying this particular rule. We all know it. Whereas somebody casts sleep, and then somebody casts sleep a week later, and they're totally different. And you're like, wait a minute, what's happened? Okay. Let's go do some forensic accounting in the middle of game night now.
Yeah, they see.
And that's exactly my point, Ryan, is that you're going to, in your head, get mixed up with the two editions as you're trying to switch. So it's really unhelpful when the tool you're supposed to be using is also feeding you 5th edition stuff when you're trying to play 5.5, right? Mm-hmm. So it adds to the mashup.
Yeah, it's almost as if they built it thinking that the legacy content would be going away very quickly, and they would just be able to delete it. But that is not. So apparently, the link in the Emerald article is just no good. But Nacho pointed we can just navigate there. /character/builder. Let's see if we go quick build. What happens here? Start your story. Choose class. Choose species. Choose background.
No. Called it.
What's the difference? This has better CSS on the page, but I don't really. Okay. All right, I gotta pick my domain too.
It's prettier. I don't know if it's super helpful.
This is just as overwhelming to me. You know, putting myself in the shoes of a person who's never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
This is just as overwhelming to me as a list. Giving me picture. I mean, it's a little bit better that I have a picture of a Goliath here. I mean, I suppose that's good, but I'm going to have to click on 12 classes. I'm going to have to click on 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10 species. It's 120 choices. And I'm going to have to click on 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 backgrounds. That's like a matrix of 1,000 choices. And if I'm a person who's prone to anxiety, I'm freaked out. I'm going to pick the wrong thing, and I'm not going to have a good time because I picked the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just better not to screw with this because I might spend a lot of energy and have a bad time anyway. I'm just going to play Fortnite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this...
Go ahead, Ryan.
This is the thing that the nerdiest person in the group is sending to their friends in order to convince them this is an easy undertaking worth getting involved in. And I still say, yeah, one click, like, do you want to be like give me the classes, give me a simplified. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Give me simplified classes. And that's it. And then let me go put a character sheet in my bullpen. Let me go change it later if I want to. But cool, yeah, you want to be a dwarf fighter? Let's go. You want to be a Goliath barbarian? Let's go. Yeah, you're a farmer because it gives you constitution. What does that mean? You don't care about it yet. Don't worry, you're good. You have a big ass axe. It's in the picture. Let's go. Let's play this game. Let's get you hooked on the storytelling aspect and the fun of it all. And then we can slowly reveal the mathematical underpinnings of all this analysis paralysis that people who are deeply involved in the game love, but it's not the ground floor.
Yeah. I'm watching Jim use the filters here as Nacho has suggested, and I think that looks pretty useful. I still think you as a DM are sitting down with the new player and walking them through this. Like this is not user friendly enough for someone who's never played D&D before to come in and figure this out, I don't think.
Here's the thing. It's okay to have an app or a game or something that somebody else has to show you how to use it or play it. It's okay to have something that you need to be trained on. And you know, I don't know if anybody remembers when Snapchat was new. Part of this thing about Snapchat, part of the appeal was that it had a ton of hidden features. There were no tutorial documents in the Snapchat app that told you how to do anything. People would have to show you how to do stuff in Snapchat. Be like, oh, you want to get to the photo filters? You got to go here, swipe there. And they knew that. It was part of their marketing. It was part of their appeal. It's learn the secrets. And that's fine. It's fine if D&D is a thing that you need to have a guide to take you on this gnarly trip with you to build your first character. What this feels like is they're trying to perfect this so that they can get rid of dungeon masters. So I can come on here, click all this, and then it'll pair me with 3 people from a relevant time zone, and then put us with an AI dungeon master. That's what they want.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. I mean, not in our lifetime. I don't think AI is ever going to be that efficient.
I hate it. That did not cross my mind, but yes. I've been judging this through the lens of there's 3 versions of this, and this is the one for the person who just started the game, right? Like, I am all for initiations into esoteric rituals. Let's go. The book's 300 pages. Like, that's we're built. That's built in. This is the easy mode. That's got there's a medium mode and a hard mode version of this. The easy mode should be the easiest. But if they're trying to make it, I don't know, human creativity agnostic, yeah, that just like made my heart drop to my stomach. Like, that sucks. And you're probably correct that the dream is to, I don't know, broaden the pipe as much as possible so they can get as many customers down it.
Yeah. I'm telling you,
Go ahead, Brad.
The best starter set that I've ever seen for D&D was the 1983 Mincer red box, right? That's the one. It's the red box with the red dragon and the long-haired fighter on the cover. Art by Larry Elmore. It's fantastic looking. That had a choose your own adventure style chapter in the how to play book. And you read the choose your own adventure style chapter where, you meet the cleric. I believe her name was Elena or Alora, something like that. And then you fight a rust monster and some rats, and then Bargle the wizard kills your cleric friend, and it's like this, like, sets the tone that this is a deadly game.
Spoilers.
And, yep. Well, spoilers from 1983, but but yeah, it was a great little choose your own adventure, snapshot of what it's like to go through a dungeon, right, and face the rust monster, face the rats, and face the big bad, the wizard Bargle. Right? Like Mr. Welch is here, of course, so I have to give a nod to Mystara. Bargle becomes an essential part of Mystara. And yeah, it's that choose your own adventure style chapter was a great way to teach somebody how to get into the game. And with the fact that we have interactive software these days that we didn't have back in 1983, like Ryan was saying earlier, you can absolutely do a choose your own adventure where you're also picking the type of character you want to play, like having choices. And then that shapes your character. So by the time you get through the tutorial of the game loop, right, of how to play D&D, you also have a character created for you based on your choices. And that would be the smartest, most efficient way to make a new character for a new player.
Whereas, like, would you rather talk the innkeeper into giving you the key, or would you rather take it from his pockets? Turn to page 25, like that.
I stab the guy.
Stab him. I stab him. Okay, we've got to move on. So we mentioned Gen Con at the top of the show. Well, there were some other announcements that came out of the Gen Con. Those Wizards of the Coast announced...
At Gary Con, talking about Gen Con. Which is
you're right. Yes, you're right. At Gary Con. Because we already talked last week about how Luke Gygax is making the Melf's Guide to Greyhawk, and that was announced at Gary Con with Wizards. Well, when they were there, Dan Ayub says that they are going to be making yearly announcements at every Gen Con now. And I found this interesting because they're kind of tying themselves to Gen Con, because this is the opposite of what Apple did. Apple used to always do their product announcements at Macworld every year. And it was the first iPhone was announced at Macworld, the first iPad. Like, for years and years, they did this at Macworld, and then they stopped. One year, they were like, we're not coming to Macworld, and people were like, gasp, how is this possible? It's the biggest Mac event. Why would you even do that? And ultimately, they said that they didn't like having Macworld's deadlines dictate their product deadlines. So they started WWDC, and it's around the same time of year, but it's not the same time every year, so they can have the flexibility to do whatever they want. And Wizards of the Coast seem to be doing the opposite now. Instead of having their product announcements whenever they want, they're tying them specifically to this one conference every year. And this article mentions mending the fractured relationship with the Gygax family, which did talk about briefly before. And it has been 3 years since the OGL scandal now. Although, you know what? I'll bet to a lot of us it still feels like yesterday. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, D&D always had a presence at Gen Con for like the longest time. I'm trying to remember. It was somewhere, I think, a few years into 5th edition where they decided to stop going to Gen Con. And a lot of people were really bothered by that. Like, that's one of the criticisms that got thrown at WotC over the years, is that they stopped going to Gen Con. So I still think they're on the OGL apology tour here. I think they're still trying to recover from the damage done by the OGL debacle, and this is one of those things that they know fans complained about when they stopped going to Gen Con, so now they're going back to Gen Con. That's my read on it.
I mean, I think that's astute. I think maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but we've got some new blood in the house, and like maybe it's like one step further than that. Maybe it's not quite as cynical. It easily could be. Don't get me wrong, but it could. You got some new people holding the reins. Maybe corporate backed off after screwing up a bunch of stuff. Seems unlikely with my experience with any sort of corporate oversight, but I think we're seeing some new people saying and doing cool things. I am cautiously optimistic about this new era of D&D, which again is really just starting. These are like them laying out the blueprints of what they're doing. 5.5 was the last punt of the old guys on their way out the door. And I like the old guys, don't get me wrong, but we're not in the new phase just yet, because there's, I don't know, what, a 2-3 year lag time in production. So we're just starting to get the people who are here now. We're starting to see the results of their decisions, because if they're telling us at a convention that they're going to Gen Con, they didn't decide last weekend that that's what's up. It's been coming for a while. So I think they're doing the right things, and I don't think it's just nerdy virtue signaling. But it could be.
I mean, just looking down the list of the new design team, right? You got Justice Armand and a couple of other folks that worked on like Radiant Citadel and some of the Magic the Gathering settings. You got James Hake, who was a DM's Guild creator for a long time, very plugged into the YouTube community, as along with Sean Merwin, both being a part of the Eldritch Lorecast. Sean Merwin, of course, has his podcast as well. So, I mean, all these folks are very tied in to, self-publishing on DM's Guild, being freelancers that have worked on various D&D products in the past, being very connected to the YouTube community, and news about D&D, right? With the guys like Sean Merwin and James Hake, who are on various podcasts talking about D&D. Sean Merwin has a long history going back from 3rd and 4th edition, being involved in running what was I forget what it was called, the Living Greyhawk.
And he was in Adventures League 2, which was the
right
5th edition version of the
So Adventures League during 5th edition, Living Greyhawk during 4th edition, and I think Living Greyhawk crossed both 3rd and 4th edition. I think, but I mean, all these guys and women have like really good resumes and are really connected to the community, which is a signal that maybe corporate is like, okay, let's get a clue. And they've hired people that really know their stuff not just from a game design standpoint or from like a D&D standpoint, like Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins, who have been around D&D for decades, right? But these are folks who've been around D&D for decades, but they've been like literally on the fan side and the independent contributor side, third-party publisher side of things.
Sean Merwin wrote some shorter things for Adventurers League, and one of them is one of my favorite things ever: the Meeting at Deep Night from Defiance and Flan. And I've talked about it before on the show.
I think I played through it. I'm running it down though.
Defiance and Flan is like 5 micro adventures, like 3-page micro adventures. The Meeting at Deep Night, it's one of my favorite. It's a stakeout. It's an undercover stakeout. It's a very simple adventure scenario to send a group of adventurers on. One of my favorite things to do with new people I don't know. I adapted it for Daggerheart. I've run it at the game store. Pretty fun.
Are you in a stable to start that one?
There's a stable involved. It starts out the quick and dirty version is party goes to a tavern. A guy comes in and is like, there's a meeting going on with a very important guy, and I need an undercover person. It looks like you, so we're gonna send you. And they send the party, and they go, and they're supposed to take a pin, or they take a dragon egg. They're buying a dragon egg or exchanging it for diamond. I can't remember which one's which. But they exchange them, and it's fake, and so they have to do some deception, and it could turn into a fight. And then if they succeed, they come back, and then the guy can offer them, come see me tomorrow for another mission, and then you've got a campaign. So it can lead to anything, which is very nice. But
Sean Merwin likes dragon eggs. He used the dragon egg as a plot hook in is it Perils of Pinebrook? Is that the introductory adventure he
yeah
did? I've run that for kids before, and and adults actually. I've run that probably 4 different times. It's a fun little level 1 adventure.
Yeah, I read that one. That one was interesting. But speaking of shorter adventures such as Defiance and Flan, also at GaryCon, the Dungeons and the Dragons made an announcement. Dana Ayub said that modules would be coming back. And regardless of what you read about this on anyone's social media, really the only thing we know is that, quote, modules are coming back. Like, this article posits that they are shorter, bite-sized adventures. We don't know that. Mm-hmm. We assume that. We don't know that. But this article gives some examples here of modern things that are more like modules, such as Uni and the Hunt for the Lost Horn, Hold Back the Dead, Scions of Elemental Evil. Mm-hmm. Hold Back the Dead was specifically a prequel to Vecna Eve of Ruin. And I don't know if the others were specifically tied into adventures, but I think of modern modules. There were some for 5e. I think of there was what was the dragon one? Icefire Peak. Mm-hmm. Icefire Peak was 1 to 7. Then on D&D Beyond, they also had an adventure that was 7 to 9 and one that was 9 to 11, and they were sort of loosely related, like in the geographical area. But that's what I think of modules. Is I think of more like modules kind of part of an adventure path. It's like you've got some 1 to 3, you've got some 3 to 5, you've got some 4 to 7, you've got some 7 to 11, and they're sort of vaguely structured enough that you can string them together into one long campaign. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, if you scroll up, they give examples of the original D&D modules, the Keep on the Borderlands and Isle of Dread and Against the Cult of the Reptile God. The third one being Matt Colville's favorite. He's talked about that one a lot. Isle of Dread, I think, I know is eventually was incorporated into the Mystara campaign setting. I keep talking about that because Mr. Welch is here. And Keep on the Borderlands is, of course, the classic. Probably those two, Keep on the Borderlands and Isle of Dread, are probably the two most popular D&D modules. Popular in the sense of the number of people who actually owned them, because those came in the basic set and the expert set. So if you're familiar with the term BECME, BECME D&D, the basic set and expert set are the B and the E from BECME. And these were the modules that came in those box sets. So that's why they're so well known. But yeah, and that's exactly what modules were back in the day. They were usually covered 2 or 3 levels, like Jen was just saying. I don't know, Jen, if you can zoom in, you can probably see it on the covers of those. It'll tell you which levels those adventures are for.
Borderlands 1 to 3, then Isle of Dread's 3 to 7. Reptile God is 1 to 3.
Yeah. So yeah, and that was typically what modules were. So when they say modules, that's of course what we all think of as like these shorter adventures, which are, like Jim was saying, very similar to the adventures that are in the 5e box sets, right?
Yeah, I would almost consider like Lost Mine of Phandelver as the quintessential adventure these days. Like, arguably not. I would say maybe not anymore. I think the scales are tipping right now, but more people had Lost Mine of Phandelver than Keep on the Borderlands for a second there. If 5e was the best selling thing ever, now B2's back, baby. But this article confused me, or I think is confused, because they kind of conflate modules and one-shots. And I would a module is closer to what we think of now as a campaign book than a one-shot. Maybe. I don't know. It's somewhere between the two. But you're not doing the Caves of Chaos in a night, So I think this is cool. I think, again, the barrier of entry for new people, it's like, hey, what are you doing every Wednesday night for the next 7 to 12 months? It's a big ask versus like, hey, this is cool. Look, it's a magazine. It's 30 pages. It's held together with a staple. It'll be fine. Let's do it. We can do this. Yeah. And then you got them. But we do know that the price point of, and the name just left my head, but the Red Wizards of the adventure that's coming out it's on the roadmap. We know it's cheaper than the books have been, which is, we expected numbers to go up because of inflation. So I do not know, but that implies to me that the page count is lower, and therefore maybe that is what we're talking about here when we're saying we're getting modules now. I don't think we need 1 to 12. I think there's a sweet spot of like 3 to 9 that most people are going to be happier with, even if they feel like they're missing something.
I'm just thinking from a marketing standpoint, right? So I'm taking my dungeon master hat off and what I want. But from a marketing standpoint, what would actually be pretty smart is, because Warhammer does this, Magic the Gathering does this, is limited edition modules. So the modules come out, they're limited edition in the beginning, right? And then after you sell out most of them, then you come out with a special edition hardback that has like 5 of the modules in one hardback and makes an actual campaign. So now that person who didn't like rush out and get all 5 of those modules and is missing 2 of them is now going to buy your hardback, even though the hardback contains 3 adventures they already own. That would actually be a business model that would help them generate extra revenue.
Ryan just went to the shelf. What do you got, Ryan?
Well, for the second time today, I have to say thanks. I hate it. You're not wrong. We do have that model in a way I don't hate, where if I go to my friendly neighborhood game shop, I get usually dope Dragon Delves, in particular, this like blacklight psychedelic vibe, but like Fizz Bands was pretty cool. Famously, maybe my favorite in the 5e era, Phandelver and Below, Mountain Dew Acid Trip, not my term, but God, have I claimed it for my own. This is a very cool way to do, like, go support your friendly local neighborhood game shop. It doesn't cost you anything else. I'm not the kind of nerd who's going to go get the regular one and the good one. But they're out there. But I wouldn't buy this 5 times. But somebody would.
Yeah.
Somebody would.
Yeah, I mean, the special edition covers, I mean, comic books have been doing that for years, right? They'll come out with a new #1 and there's 5 different special covers, and like the hardcore fans buy all 5 of them. But you could definitely do that. Like, I didn't even think about connecting it to the friendly local game store, but yes, like publish these little pamphlet sized modules that come to your local game store, and then 3-4 months later, after you got one of those coming out every month, and you rush into your local game store to get all 5 of them, or however many months later, you come out with a hardcover that you sell on D&D Beyond and Amazon and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the modules were notoriously not profitable, which is why they stopped doing them. So I'm very curious to see if they adopt a business model like Brad suggests, or what this is going to mean, because I think when they say we're bringing modules back, a lot of people think that means something they can hold in their hand, something that's like stapled where the cover is a little slightly separate, like Nacho mentioned earlier in chat. You could also use it as a DM screen if you have to.
Yeah.
And it's good because it's got the maps on the inside of it anyway, if I remember from Sinister Secret of Salt Marsh.
Yep.
So moving on, hey Brad, I think that Dimension 20 heard that your Vampire Masquerade campaign fell apart, and they wanted to make you feel better because they just announced this week that the next D20 is going to be using Vampire Masquerade. It's called Dimension 20 City Council of Darkness. And it's all the regular cast, the main cast. I'm not going to press play on here, but if you are interested in Dimension 20, this seems to be like a fun one. There are some shades in the trailer of Escape from the Blood Keep, which was a side project they did early on. It was one of their first side projects with Matt Mercer was there, and Iffy and Wadaway, and I think Iffy was there. It's been a while, but they were playing evils.
Amy Vorpal is in that one?
Yes, Amy Vorpal was in that one, and that was the one that famously, like, they're playing evils, and Brennan intended for the final battle to be one where they would all selfishly compete for the same prize. But over the course of the campaign, they all became best friends, of course, so he had to, like, change the final battle the day, like, like in between the Friday and Saturday that they filmed. They had to, like, redo the whole battle structure and everything. There's a video of him carrying this giant battle map out, complaining about everyone, like, why'd you have to all become friends? Anyway, I don't know if that's going to happen this time. But you guys have thoughts? I'm very okay. I'll say this. I have to have a take on this. So here's my take. I am thrilled with the fact that Dimension 20 continues to experiment with other systems. And I think they found a formula on the show that no matter what system they're using, it kind of feels the same. When they do 5e, it doesn't really feel that much different than when they're doing their homebrew Never Stop Blowing Up. Mechanically, I mean, the genres are obviously different, but mechanically, they've managed to put a lot of that in the back. Like, I don't think they even do health bars on the screen anymore. I think they used to do that in Fantasy Hive. I think they stopped doing that. Anyway, what do you guys think?
I think Vampire the Masquerade is ideal for streaming. Like, the vampire community seems very big that they are a role-playing first game. Even though if you pick up the rule book, it doesn't look that way. The actual mechanics of Vampire have a decent amount of crunch to them. But everybody I've known who've ever played Vampire, and once I actually got to play Vampire for the first time, it was very much a narrative driven game. There's a rich lore, and there's these different houses of vampires who, each have different special abilities, and the concept too, when you build a vampire campaign, is that you take the lore, right, of these houses and the feuds between the houses, and you lay it on top of whatever city you live in or whatever a nearby city that everybody's familiar with. Like the campaign that I was playing in took place in Atlanta and Charleston. You know, because I live near those cities, not real close, but close enough to have visited those cities often enough.
And we all know that Charleston is filled with vampires.
So yeah, it was, you know, so I think the game itself lends itself to a visual medium of live play because it is more, you know, just thematic and, you know, narrative in its DNA.
And it's giving what we do in the shadows. It's not Staten Island. It's like some
New York City.
It's some small town in Oregon, which gives you a different hit, but like it seems to have a nice comedic contrast built in to the premise, which I would expect nothing less. It's gonna be fun. They're getting the old crew back together. I haven't watched the last few Dimension 20s. I got deep into Critical Role. One thing that's nice about Dimension 20 that kind of circles back to the idea of modules is that they are digestible. You can commit to one and get to the end and feel that satisfaction of a completed thing, even if they do seasons, right? Like it's not necessarily the end of the story so much as a beat where you're like, okay, cool, I can go listen to music for a little bit and not feel like I'm falling incredibly far behind.
Yeah, and that's been my struggle from the beginning with Critical Role, is that it's just such a time sink, and I tried really hard to get into Critical Role at the beginning of the second season. Like I was late to the game. I watched like the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 episodes of the first season. Like this is really cool, and I want to follow these guys. I want to do, you know. So back when the second season came out, I was there and I was trying to watch every week, and it's too much. It's too much for my schedule. But yeah, I like bite-sized stuff. That's why I'm probably the live plays I've watched the most of are the new game Who Dis, because most of those are like 3 or 4 videos, and each one's a different game. I forget who makes that one.
I don't know. That sounds familiar. I think have heard of that. Nacho says, "Bring back Dragon Magazine." They tried, man. They they brought it back digitally a few years ago, and you know, everybody who's tried, I've seen many. I've even seen mighty titans such as Matt Colville try to resurrect the print magazine in this industry, and he too failed because after a while it's just so unprofitable. Here, let me show you some.
Show and tell day. I recommend to everybody who has the same feeling that Brad has about dabbling with Critical Role, but not feeling like they've got the 10,000 hour rule to apply to an actual play. Calamity, 4 episodes, maybe my favorite actual play of all time. Critical Role plus Brendan Lee Mulligan plus a beginning, a middle, and an end that you could devote a weekend to if you were really into it, and it's dope. So good.
Yeah. New game Who Dis is by the Glass Cannon Network. I looked it up real quick. Yeah.
I love those guys. Those guys. Shout out to them. They're in Astoria, which is near and dear to my heart. I lived there for a while. They're like, they like reference the deli once in a while. Like, you need to go back to South Chris and Charlie's. But yeah, if you haven't listened to Glass Cannon, they did a lot of Pathfinder. They're doing Shadow Dark now, and it's cooking. They're great. They're just fun and funny and good. Having a good time.
Mr. Welch here makes a very good point, I think, is that you can't do a 300-page magazine with 150 pages of ads. And here's the example I just pulled from my shelf. This is Crucible. I really like this cover. This cover I think is really pretty. And I got 2 issues. This came out 3-4 years ago, and it was kind of hyped. It was a big Kickstarter for a little while. And I gotta say, it was super dope to have monthly adventure content again in a physical medium I could hold in my hand. But magazines were $20. $20 for a print magazine feels like a lot, because 2 of these is like a 250, same cost as a 256-page hardcover WotC adventure. You know, which seems kind of hard to justify when it's full of articles and some of them don't apply to me. So I'm like, would I really pay $20 a month? And yeah, like Mr. Welch said, there's no ads in here, or there's one ad for Foundry in the very back of one. But, you know, people before the internet was a thing called magazines, and people read a lot of magazines, and that's banner ads. They used to be in the magazines. Those banner ads were 2-dimensional, flat. Couldn't interact with them. You couldn't click them to go away because they were just in the magazine. You had to turn the page. But the magazines were the old internet. But then the internet came, so people don't care about magazines anymore, because you can have the internet. It's like a magazine that always updated. Always updated. Every second of every day, it's brand new. So why would you want a paper thing you can hold in your hands that's immediately out of date? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate there. I wish magazines hadn't died. And weren't
In
just
my day, pop-up ads were on cardstock, and they fell out, and half of them smelled like perfume.
In my day, you could add your own HTML to your MySpace website and make it look like whatever you wanted.
As long as you put under construction, it was fine. No one would judge you.
Oh, in a recent interview, Matt Colville admitted that he would have rather continued. And his magazine was it Arcadia? Was that the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He would have preferred to continue Arcadia instead of doing the Kingdoms and Warfare book. But it was the demands of the Kingdom and Warfare book that made it too hard to do Arcadia. But he felt like he had to do Kingdoms of Warfare because he told everybody when he did, what was his first book?
Strongholds?
No. Strongholds and Followers.
Oh, yeah. When he did Strongholds and Followers, he told everybody that he would do Kingdoms and Warfare next. So he was beholden to his promise. And they just didn't have the bandwidth and resources to keep Arcadia going. And I thought that was interesting that Matt admitted that he really liked Arcadia and wanted to continue it.
Yeah, there's some great stuff in there, but magazines are tough because it's like, again, I don't think Acadia was coming in at $20, but I was going to look at the PDFs. I bought a few, but it's like, oh, this is a dope adventure. I don't need a warlock subclass though, right? Like it's just like you're buying the whole kitchen sink of it all.
Yeah, the original pitch of Arcadia was you would become a member, right? Like a subscriber, and you just get it digitally. But
it was on Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon. That's what it was. Yeah.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out here to rpg.com. If you like old RPG books and magazines, this guy has, I don't know how many, I'm assuming he's probably always buying them, but I, for a little while, did a subscription thing where I think I paid $15 and I got 2 every other month or maybe 1 a month, but I got a number of Dragon magazines and Dungeon magazines and White Dwarf, and I think that's about the extent of them. But I got some pretty cool issues, and I did that for a while, and it was kind of fun to flip through the old ones. So rpg.com, he doesn't sponsor the show or anything. It's just a service that I used, and also the guy's name's Charles. He's actually pretty cool. I've emailed him a few times.
Does he buy stuff too, asking for half of our audience sitting on a garage full of books? Yeah, buy, sell, trade.
Buy, sell, trade, yeah. So if you've got sci-fi fantasy books, sell your RPG books. Yeah, Chris at rpg.com. That's different.
It's a good resource.
Charles.
Yeah. And Nacho mentions that DM's Guild is kind of the new magazine for D&D fans. The other thing you can do is sign up for somebody's newsletter, right? Like Sly Flourish has a newsletter, Questing Beast has a newsletter. Depending on like if you're a 5e person, like sign up for Sly Flourish's newsletter, or if you're an old school person, sign up for Questing Beast newsletter, because you're going to get links to all sorts of new stuff coming out. Whether that's links to Kickstarters or links to cool new products that they are putting out, or links to DM's Guild or Drive Through RPG. So it's not really a magazine, but it's kind of a network of resources to choose from.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Just gonna say MT Black. I'm kind of like underwater. I maintained Inbox Zero for a long time, and now I am avoiding my emails. But MT Black made a bunch of DM's Guild adventures back in the day. Has done bigger and better things since then. But their email is a pretty cool resource as well if you're looking for things coming to you for free. It's a good one.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of the older school bloggers that have like their mailing list, and I'm pretty sure Kelsey from Arcane Library has an email mailing list as well that you can get on.
Yeah, and she was pumping out I forget what the Shadow Dark zine is called, and there was Wormskin. So like zines come and go. A lot of them end up like Dolmenwood was essentially coming out in zine form for a long time, and then that got packaged up. I think a lot of those Shadow Dark zines are going to be folded up into the next. I can't not call it West Marches, but that is not the name of it. I'll know it when it shows up on my door in a year or two. So there's still some stuff out there. Old School Essentials. Speaking of my friendly local neighborhood game shop, Old School Essentials makes adventures that I would call modules that are like a month's worth of content at your average table, and whatever are small, not 8.5 by 11. They're like smaller, thin books. You could maybe use it as a DM screen, probably not, but there's still stuff out there if you go looking for it. But the age of paper is dying, my friends. Just look at Dunder Mifflin.
So moving on, we're going to have a quick discussion today. Brad wanted to bring up how to make players feel smart, and this is an interesting topic. This is something I've given some thought to. Brad, you want to lead us off? What do you think?
Yeah, so I ran into this idea. It was actually a discussion I saw online about the difference between the old Jurassic Park movies and the new Jurassic Park movies, and why the old ones are better. There's enough like pseudoscience in the old Jurassic Park that the audience feels smart when they get clued into, oh, the dinosaurs have frog DNA, and then, oh, the dinosaurs are changing gender. Where is that because of the frog? Oh, it is because of the frog DNA, right? Like the audience figures something out, and it's doled out in just enough that usually the audience gets it right before the movie tells you the answer, right? And that's how you really hook an audience and help them feel engaged, because they feel smart. That's why people love mystery movies, right? And I'm sure Jim can talk at length about this because he's written some mystery books and and intrigue books, right? But yeah, so the idea of like how to make your players feel smart, like the idea of like doling out chunks of information, putting and doing the whole show not tell. It's like taking show not tell to the next level. If you're doing show not tell, and it's making your players feel like they figured something out before it happens, that's a really cool feeling, and it helps your players stay engaged in your game.
Yeah, I think that is very true. Also, one of the things that I like to look for is subtext. Brad, is your phone on the table? I've never heard someone get so many rings in 54 minutes.
He's popular.
You're so popular, Brad.
Brad's a popular dude.
I would
Uh,
kill myself if
This
I had notifications every 2 minutes. Subtext. Subtext is a great way to make players or readers feel smart. And in a book, what you know, when you're watching a movie and a husband and wife are having an argument, and then after 30 seconds you go, wait a second, they're not actually fighting about taking out the trash. They're fighting about him not being responsible. When the viewer or the reader or the D&D player figures that out, they feel smart because subtext is just coded language. That's all it is. It's just speaking in code, and you can figure it out by the context clues. But for games, the thing I was thinking about when you mentioned this earlier was I was thinking about the game Brindlewood Bay, because it's a mix of Cthulhu and Agatha Christie, like kind of like a little old biddies detective agency. And the idea is that there's a bad guy in every one shot or every mini campaign, and that, you know, there's going to be clues, and then the players will hunt down the clues. And in the GM's guide, it says whoever the players think it is, that's who it is.
Nice.
You know, you don't have to surprise them and pull out this. It's like whoever they find clues and have a logical assumption that it's that person, it's that person. Because when you let people be right, it makes them feel smart.
Yep. And those are two examples I have. I recently played a game that was mostly new players, and you know, they defeated the wizard that was conjuring the monsters, and they kind of expected the monsters to disappear once they defeated the wizard, right? You know, kind of like blowing up the starship makes all the battle droids collapse. But I don't like that trope, so I try not to use that very often. So the monsters didn't collapse when they killed the wizard, and the players were disappointed by that. But I had spent time when I described the wizard, describing his really cool staff. So the player went over and picked up the wizard's staff and broke it, made a strength check and broke it. And at that point is when I was like, okay, I need to yes and this, and I need to make them right. I hadn't even thought of that. But when they broke the staff, I made the monsters collapse. And that really sealed the deal. It made the players feel smart. The other example is I was playing with the kids at school. So these are middle school, high schoolers. And there was this one NPC that kind of set them up with all the information they needed, which I was doing simply for time's sake. But one of the players was like, this is suspicious. This woman knows too much. So they split the party, and she stayed behind to spy on the halfling NPC. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do something with this. So I made the NPC a devil in disguise. And so in order to keep that player engaged, right, I'm pausing the action of the fight scene that the other players are engaged in to cut to this tense conversation between this one player who was suspicious, who's now negotiating with a devil. And I had no intention of making that NPC a devil in disguise. But when the player said, I'm suspicious of them, that gave me the idea and I ran with it. Right. And then it makes the player feel smart when they're right. Of course, the secret to all that is obviously the improv tool of yes and, but also never tell your player that you didn't learn it until they came up with it. That breaks the illusion, right? That shows the old man behind the curtain.
It is funny. I will like implement the opposite of that sometimes, where it's like the other night I rolled a random encounter, and I used it as set dressing. Someone went and investigated it. I built more and more into it, and then at a certain point, you know, we were doing other stuff, but like 45 minutes into it, I was like, okay, look, this isn't a thing. I am telling you now, above table, that this is not going to reveal more information. Because the main thing I do to make my players feel smart, because I don't run a ton of like mysteries necessarily, but I am constantly making significant signs and portents is what it is in my head, because it sounds mythical, but just like, this is that kind of monster that's out in the woods. Like, you see its poop, you see its tracks, you see, like, I go like very like naturalistic sometimes, but like everything that I mentioned in a room description, you can interact with it. It'll do stuff. If you're in a library, yeah, there will be stuff on the bookshelves worth checking out. Maybe one of those will open a secret door or whatever, but like even so, you will learn information about the world that you're operating in and start being able to connect everything. I don't throw out very much that is random. Everything, if you pull on it, is connected to other stuff. And they're not going to pull on most things. So I can keep bringing those threads to other places until they start to pull on one. And yeah, having it all be interconnected, it just is my style of play. I enjoy like fun and funny, but that like full gonzo, what's happening in this room has nothing to do with what was going on in the last room. That like drives me kind of crazy. I want that like continuity because that gives the players the ability to act on it. So just connections. And then the other thing is I don't pull punches. I roll in the open. I don't play on easy mode. When I solve Sudoku in 3 minutes, it doesn't make me feel smart. It's like, oh, that was an easy puzzle. Like I think the challenge level is also part of it, and that's something in the modern era of 5.5 you have to work at slightly, even just a telegraph. Like I think part of it is also like being the heel, being like, wow, you guys are smart, you destroyed my puzzle that I found on the kids menu. Whatever, like you also like lean into it too to make your players feel good.
Yeah, well, here's an encounter that I ran that you guys can steal. I had as the players, they were looking for this voracious monster that was like just feeding on everything, and they kept finding remains of other creatures, like the remains of a dire wolf, right, remains of a griffin that had been like just chewed up, like it had been through a meat grinder, right, and it had like claw marks and like bite marks, but then also like just like gore everywhere. And then when they finally find the monster, it's a skeletal owlbear. So it's the skeleton of an owlbear that still thinks it's an owlbear, so it's still hungry, and it keeps attacking and killing monsters, but it's never full because it has no stomach. So when they see the owlbear, it's chewing on the carcass of some other big animal, and then it turns to charge at them. And you describe the entrails of this monster that they just ate spilling out of the rib cage of the owlbear, and then it like clicks, and like that's why that's all this stuff is because this skeleton owlbear thinks it's hungry and can't satiate its appetite. And so that was another recent one I ran that players got really excited about when they figured out the monster.
That's fun. Yeah, any future player intuition turns into future foreshadowing if you can find a way to work it in. Not everything, because you don't want it to be like everything, don't turn all your players into Nostradamus and that everything they predict comes true. In Brindlewood Bay, that's a very specific kind of game where I think, the players know that's how it works. Everybody involved knows that's how it works. And so it's like unmasking the Scooby-Doo villain is not the point of playing that game. The point is to let your inner Miss Marple out, to be a little old biddy in a quiet seaside town where sea monsters are just off the coast.
Yeah, Nacho talks about the J.J. Abrams mystery box, and for years that's how I ran my D&D campaigns. Like I would come up with a hook, and I'd come up with a villain, and I didn't worry about anything in between. And I would just let the players make up whatever worked. And whenever they if it was kind of cheesy, I would just let them investigate it, and then it would be a dead end. But when they came up with something cool, something that I hadn't thought of, that I thought was smarter than me, that was the answer to the mystery box, right? I ran D&D like that for years when I was in my teens and 20s, and didn't have an internet to give me all sorts of cool ideas. I just really leaned on the players and did a lot of yes and.
All right. Any last thoughts on making players feel smart?
Brad's description got me thinking of Peritons, and like this is actually not my favorite art of them, but it's a decent version. But it's a flying deer monster, so not super scary until you learn that it eats hearts. So, hey, you know those orcs that have been stealing your lunch money for the last 3 levels? Here's one with its heart ripped out. And there's a couple feathers. Like, what the hell is going on? That's like in a quantum state in pretty much any campaign that I run. Is there's somebody's got his heart ripped out, and then when the shadow falls on you in a few more sessions, you'll connect some dots.
Yeah.
I actually have a video where I like walk you through how to use a Periton in a mystery. So
I remember that video. So moving on, the last thing that we're going to discuss on the show today is there is a new Dragonlance novel from Weiss and Hickman, from Margaret and Tracy, and this isn't the first novel they've done in a long time. They put out, I think, a whole trilogy just a few years ago. But the reason that I want to bring this one is I just really, really like this cover art. This is War Wizard. It's part of a new trilogy featuring, they said, where does it say who is, it's Huma and, recent Destiny's trilogy, novel trilogy, some of the heroes of Lance traveling back in time to an earlier Dragon War. So Victor Slumnus wrote, they both were a gift for Slumnia and his fan. The knight is Hume. The boy took the name Migius. I didn't read the more recent Dragonlance books. I've just read the original trilogy a long time ago, and then I reread the Night, Autumn, whatever the first one is, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Dragons of Autumn Twilight.
Dragons of Autumn Twilight, and I didn't like it nearly as much as I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, I've avoided going back to them. I have them; they're on that shelf back there. But I've avoided going back to them because I don't want to like spoil my 13-year-old, 14-year-old memory of that trilogy.
It bothered me that there were 3 separate scenes where characters were kidnapped and bound. 3 separate times in the book. That bothered me. I was like, if you're repeating the same plot point 3 times, like maybe you need the book to be shorter. But the thing that what I really wanted to point out was this wraparound cover. This what we call a wraparound for the paperback, hardback. I think this is just beautiful.
It's really nice. Friend of the show, present in chat, Nacho, reached out on some version of social media to Margaret Weiss, and this confirmed this is the big announcement that's been coming. There was some hope, however guided or misguided it might have been, that we were getting like more Dragonlance gameable content. We were getting like D&D 5.5 Dragonlance stuff, and no, the thing that they've been hinting at with Joe Mango Jello in the works is this. And yes, Pedro Pascal, so hot right now. He's everywhere, including the cover of the Dragonlance books.
I'd be interested to read this. One of the things that I think is important in fantasy fiction is not so much the epicness of the story. You know, like Lord of the Rings is about destroying the One Ring, right? But the humanity of the characters, like that's what you actually relate with, I think, in fantasy. And fantasy gives you a setting where you can put characters in all sorts of weird places, but ultimately it's like, do I relate to these characters in this weird world? And I think, obviously Frodo and Sam do a good job of that. And from what I remember of that original Dragonlance trilogy, it was the characters that I loved. Like I was heartbroken when one of the characters dies in the second novel. It was because he was one of my favorite characters. So and hopefully this has that kind of, I don't know, maybe buddy cop feel, best friend adventure kind of thing, road trip kind of vibes, where you got these 2 characters doing these great things, but it's really about the friendships that you make along the way kind of thing.
Yeah, here's let me let you all in a little secret. I used to write book blurbs professionally, the book description, and authors send us their book blurb, their version of it, and all the information about the book so that we can write the blurb. And fantasy authors, to a T, they want to stress the world. They want to stress their magic systems in the world in their book blurbs. And here's the thing, every book blurb is the same. It's about the characters. And so fantasy authors almost always get pushback. They're like, you didn't mention the Council of Blurgity in your draft blurb. You didn't mention the Council of Blurgity. You didn't mention the War of the Blickfax. And we'll always be like, that doesn't matter. What sells a book, book blurb, what sells a book is a character wants something stands in their way, and there are stakes. Something will happen if they fail to get it. That's what's in it. Every book blurb that sells, that's what's in it. Anyway.
Now replace book blurb with D&D campaign. That goes the distance.
Right. Yep. It goes back to making your players feel smart, making show not tell, so like the players feel like they own the world, not you own the world, right? Have you guys watched Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I'm not in. I cycle through to stay sane, so I'm off HBO right now.
Yeah, I'm not on HBO. I'm on Hulu right now.
Gotcha. It's obviously it's a spinoff of Game of Thrones, but it's very different than Game of Thrones. It's what we're talking about. It's a story about one knight and his squire and the relationship that they develop. It's very different than
I've read the Duncan Egg novellas, and you call them novellas, but they're like almost 200 pages. They're about 50,000 words, which is a novella for him. But what is funny is, George R. R. Martin is very verbose. And at the end of the first one, I was like, whoa, that was 180 pages. Not a whole lot actually happened, but it was very good. The second one was also good. The second one was about the hedge knight gets sent to negotiate a treaty to negotiate the end of a siege or something. And that was really good also. But yeah, very different, very focused on just these two characters.
Mm-hmm.
I also really enjoyed them and didn't want to read them, put it off for a long time because I was mad that they existed, because he wrote those instead of writing the next book of the series that I've been waiting for we're a decade now. We're never going to see it. It's over now. Don't worry about it. They were good, man. Duncan Egg is fun.
He's not even working on them. He's not even actively writing the book. The last thing he said was, if I could get all these other projects off my desk, then I could actually get back to writing. He's not even writing the book.
I think the problem is there's too much weight. Like, how do you decide how this is going to end when it matters so much to so many people?
Well, maybe you already did, and you told somebody else, and they did the worst possible version of it. So now you can't do that. That's my theory.
Yeah.
No, but with George R. R. Martin, when he dies, Patrick Rothfuss has the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. They hire Patrick Rothfuss to finish.
He's got his own problems.
I know, that would be the thing. It'd be like, he's like, I've decided not to finish King Killer. I'm going to write Dream of Winter and Winds of Winter, Dream of Spring. And then, boy, so many people would just explode with anger because Rothfuss also owes us another book.
That hurt. That was like a painful laugh. That was a weird cocktail of emotions you just concocted there.
I think George is going to have to, if he ever actually does write it, he's going to have to wait to release it until after he's dead.
Well, there's
seal it in a safe and put it in your will.
There's 900 pages somewhere on a hard drive already. I guaranteed. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he gave them the bullet points when they were like, all right, we're finishing before you, because we did a 7-year series in the time it took you to almost write one of the books. I think what happens in the show, there's a world where that happens well in 1,500 pages. They could have earned it. They didn't earn it. They got it done. Everybody hates it. And what's he going to do now? Victim of his own success.
Here's a last little fact about George R. R. Martin. He writes his novels on a PC that's so old it uses floppy disks. It's green on black, and the reason is he does not like spell check. He doesn't use Word. He doesn't like spell check because he says all the names I write are misspelled according to that. So George R. R. Martin, the author of one of the most famous series, one of the most important series of all time, saves his work to a friggin' floppy disk when he's writing. No internet, floppy disk.
For all the kids at home, that's what the save icon is.
Yeah.
That's why it looks the way it does.
All right, we got to wrap this up. We're rambling now. I'm ranting about George R. R. Martin, so that means it's time to go.
Every episode,
you hear that bell?
it's inevitable.
That's Jim talking about George R. R. Martin too much. Anyway, so hey, thanks for watching and listening. We love you. We are glad you were here. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. Names to that spell check. Well, Phil, I mentioned that to George and he was like, why are you on my property? And so I left. Okay. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We love you. From the Landlocked Warlocks, we want to wish you goodbye. And now we're going to wave and I'm going to hit the button until the thing stops.
Happy